My name is Barbara Gutierrez, and I am hosting with great joy in my heart this panel that has a special flavor for me. You know why? Because here we're going to talk about gaming journalism. So, games journalism from Brazil to Brazil. The press has been operating in Brazil for decades, spreading the news of the games market and plays an important role. But in particular, how is the relationship between the Brazilian gaming press and the production of national games, which has been conquering spaces and awards worldwide here in recent years? So, in this discussion, we will address this point with some of the main uh, outlets in the market. So this is a panel in Portuguese. If you want to watch it in English, use the web link on the channel. So we got a deal. I'd like to call the participants now for this panel, starting with a moderator, my dear Paulo Luis Santos, founder, executive director, and creative designer for Flux Games. How you doing, Paulo? Hey, Barbara. Thanks for the introduction. Very happy to be here moderating this panel. I'm Paulão from Flux Games. I want to thank Big Festival for the opportunity for this space to talk about this such a relevant topic. I want to thank Gustavo, Elia, Gui, Polito, Danilo, folks from the production side who helped us. Big hug, all of you guys. So we're going to kick this off. It's a fantastic roundtable, and I'm here virtually surrounded by some of the best names in Brazilian games press. It's cool, right? Yes, it is. Yes, games journalism in Brazil, what it is, what it could be, and what we can do for this relationship to be, for this to bear fruit for all parties. I'm Paulo Luis Santos. I'm the founder of Flux Games, 9 years on the road. We launched Cobra Kai, Karate Kid Saga Continues for all consoles. By chance, I worked in the press. I'm a former journalist from 2002 2009. And I'd like to ask each and every one of you to introduce yourselves, where you work, what you do, starting by our dear Isadora. Good afternoon, Isadora. Good afternoon, folks. First and foremost, I want to thank for the invitation. Very thankful for being in this fantastic panel of incredible people. I follow your work. I'm thankful for sharing this same arena with you. So, Isadora Basile, I'm a host for Omelete, working with video, work a bit with the writing desk as well. So let's talk a bit about journalism, something that really, it's near and dear to me. And I think we can all add, everyone in the panel. Welcome, welcome, fantastic. Eduardo Moura, if you can please introduce yourself. Hey, folks, I'm Eduardo. I work for Folha de São Paulo newspaper, and I cover video games there in the culture side, and also Ancine movies, the Rouanet law, and all of that. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Yes, that's the key word. Marina Val, welcome. Please introduce yourself for those who don't know. My name is Marina Val. I'm the editor for Jovem Nerd, and I started in magazines with Nintendo World in '09. And I've been in the industry, games and pop culture for a long time. I've participated in game jams. So I've been following the indie developers very closely for a long time. And they have a very special place in my heart. Nice, nice. What'd you do at the jam? Art? Yes, us, art, along with Mini Bosk. Wow, wow, cool. So now, Jean Carlos, if you can please introduce yourself. Do we have Jean Carlos with us? Oh, here we go. How you doing, folks? I'm Jean Carlos Mota. I'm from Sergipe in the Northeast, but I've been in São Paulo for a long time. Worked in some websites, some media outlets in the old, fan sites, Red Bull Gaming, and now I'm the chief editor for IGN Brazil. So I'm honored to be here with so many wonderful people from our scene to talk about this wonderful passion, independent games. Wonderful, wonderful. Welcome, Jean Carlos. Now I ask Bruno Isidro to introduce himself. Hey, hello. First, I'd like to say hello to those who are watching us. My name is Bruno Isidro. I write professionally about gaming for 7 years, since 2014. Kotaku Brazil, Vice, and currently for the last 2 years, I've been working as a gaming journalist for Startwall. It's a dedicated website replacing Wall Jogos. It's now for the Wall portal. And that's it. Nice, Bruno. Welcome. And last but not least, Wagner Waka. Introduce yourself, please. How you doing, folks? Oh, come on. I'm not even dressed up formally for this event, you know. I'm Wagner Waka. I'm a journalist since '09. I've worked with, the writing desk, different things. And now I'm in Canaltech and Bonus Stage covering technology and games as well. Giving it a broader look of technology into games, opening our eyes a bit, right? Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. So without further ado, I'm going to bring the first topic. I'd like to hear whoever wants to speak up, but I'd like to ask first Marina, considering that you have this experience of working with developers, such talented developers as the Mini Boss team. In your opinion, what is the role? Okay, very broad. What is the role of press thinking about the game developing ecosystem in a country like Brazil? So, folks, this is key. We had an issue. We're going to come back.
adoro muito todos, porque já trabalhei, já tive o prazer de trabalhar com todos eles nessa minha indústria aí como jornalista, como editora
So I
de
had a pleasure of working with all of them as a journalist, as chief
então,
editor in the esports and gaming world. And now we're going to talk about this scene. A lot of people ask themselves what it's like.
como que funciona todo esse esquema, né?
How does this all work? At the end of the day, the
Jogos, de
companies that send us,
né, que são
what are the press
patrocinados
trips like? The basically the trips where the companies send their reps of each media outlet to go to an event or to test a game and talk about that product itself. I think this is a necessary discussion, especially in a moment such as today, like the media so many times is questioned about the work of journalism, which is key to keep the audience well informed, despite being about games. And we're saying, oh, it's just little games. No, it's the opposite. Games obviously are art. We don't even have to go down to that debate. Come on, this is big festival. So when we talk about gaming, this is one type of art, and within art, we have the discussion about several aspects that are important to the community. We've got games that talk about cancer, dragon cancer, uh, games that talk about political situations, tense, like Papers, Please, talking about diplomacy is so necessary. Games that talk about the relationship between you and a relative like Gris. And so there are a number of titles that are important and necessary for social educational discussions of the audience. So why is it so cool to talk about journalism? Why? Oh, we're back. Beautiful people. Okay, everybody's got their internet rolling. Yes, we're good. We're good. We're good. Yeah, you guys just wanted to see if I was sharp. Uh-huh. I was right here. Yeah, you can do it on the ballpoint. Yeah, to talk about gaming journalism, I could spend hours and hours. I'm so anxious for this panel. I apologize for interrupting. I have already introduced all of you. So I hand you back the floor. Paulo in the screen, a big kiss. You are dear to all of me. Paulo, real quick, a host is a host. Come on. So he's introduced all of you. Love for all of you on the screen. Folks, you got this. Thank you, Barbara. So we move on so we don't spend more time. There's lots of content. Starting with a question over to Marina, in your opinion, and I'd like for everyone who wants to chime in, please do. What is the role of the press in this developing ecosystem? Not thinking just about the end player, but how can the press support? What's the press's role in this bigger engine in the games industry? How do you see this, Marina? We build bridges. You think there's a game that's going to be very small, but it is a great theme, great topic, and in any other way would not be brought to the audience, to the greater audience, but at the same time, I want for developers to understand, please, please, please. It's not that we're not in the mood to, sometimes it's just simply, you're releasing a game along with 10 other AAA games that we're obligated to talk about. And so you're releasing your game in a way that maybe you have not communicated what your game is really well for us to understand what your idea is, to get me a quick trailer, a quick video. So if you communicate your game in a way that not even a journalist understands, how will the audience understand about it? So that's what I want for folks to understand. Developers who are watching this, please, please, please. It's not that we're grumpy. It's not that we don't want to help. Brazilian games, they don't generate any revenue. No, we want to show Brazil to everyone. I'm from Maranhão. Bruno Isidro is from the north, and then Sergipe. We're not just São Paulo and Rio here, but sometimes it's difficult to communicate with these folks in terms of what is truly your game. It's just a bunch of ideas in a huge scope. That's what I. Nice. Thank you for your input, Marina. Who'd like to take a chance? Give some advice, some tips to developers who are watching, and how to increase the chances of getting coverage. You mentioned not sending along with several AAAs that are being released. It's difficult to compete, right? So please look at the calendar and maybe avoid releasing along with Waka. In your opinion, come on, give me some thoughts. Paulão, I worked with pre-Activision time. Pre-Activision, it's a AAA company. So I worked for Activision. So even developers sometimes, indie developers either don't understand or because of their work, it's difficult to measure that. But when do you want to show that game? So then they're so anxious about it, and then they show the game. I've gone to Big and BGS and saw raw games. They're not really ready. And then when it came to me, it was completely different, way cooler. And luckily, I gave it a second chance, and then it just rolled out. And second thing, either having a dedicated person or some part of your budget to communicate who's going to run the release, who's going to send, who's going to call folks, who's going to create the press release, on the internet, the buzz, the ecosystem for you to show up. And so those two things, knowing the timing, the right time, when it's ready, okay, now it's nice for me to show. And having some money separate to be aside to communicate. If you do it all by yourself, you're dead.
Great stuff. I think people are taking notes. Now I have follow-up question on that. Considering ways through which the press can help studios. I'm here on behalf of them at the end of the day. I think one of the most important roles the press has to play has to do with their reviews, right? With their critics. I know you write quite thorough reviews. I know you take this quite seriously. That's why I wanted to ask you that. Studios need to have a good score at Metacritic, right? But we do not have any Brazilian website on Metacritic. Why is that? It's funny. I remember when I was working as a PR executive, most of my colleagues used to say exactly what you said. Companies want to have a good score because, it's something easy to portray to your audience, and people also look for Metacritics. Now, there are some points to that. Since we use the Portuguese language, we are sometimes apart from the global media outlets. It's hard to create a relationship with them if we don't go to GDC or B3. If we don't partake these large events, it's very hard to join those clubs, right? I mean, it's hard to get to be known by journalists and other professionals. It's hard to know how we can join Metacritics, who I need to email, who I need to get in touch with, what I need to implement on my website, and the parameters that are going to be assessed. Well, there are two things to it. First, that happens because many people do not really understand how important Metacritic is for a AAA company and what ROI is expected. Secondly, you have to know your way. You have to learn about the processes because, once again, journalism here is a bit apart from the rest of the world, especially because we publish in Portuguese. Great. Now, from the studio's standpoint, having a good score on Metacritic, it doesn't have to be a 9, it can be a 6 or a 7. That actually empowers studios to do new businesses. So you are seen by people. It's as if you started to exist when you have a score on Metacritic. That's why I wanted to touch on that, because sometimes that is also not clear for journalists. That is a very important point. When you're presenting your game, of course, people will portray their Metacritic score. And that sort of puts you in the scene, that sort of shows that your game exists. So this is something studios have to think about. Otherwise, we have to struggle to be reviewed. And oftentimes, studios do not have a close relationship with journalists, so they have to hire a foreign PR executive. They'll have to pay this person in dollars, which is quite expensive considering the exchange rate. So I wanted to know more about that. This is a great idea. I know there are some websites in Spanish, so I believe this is possible. I mean, maybe we could translate some excerpts to Portuguese. Now, let me stop talking because I want to hear from you. Let me talk about content. I wanted to ask Jean Carlos, who works at IGN. We're talking about national and international productions. And I wanted to ask you, I've talked to many people before I prepared these questions, but as I talked to these people, it seemed to me that Brazilian websites often translate content. We don't really have some in-detail stories. IGN is a global conglomerate, so you publish and post in different languages around the globe. That's why I wanted to ask you about that. How can we portray our stories to the international branch of IGN, maybe? Well, IGN works similarly to Red Bull. We've got this international newsroom, so we can translate content if we want to. Because let's say IGN Poland is developing something. Maybe they're posting about an indie studio or about something else. For example, Resident Evil in Japan, they were authorized to visit the studios, and we translated that content. That was impossible for us because of the COVID situation. So yes, that happens. Yes, we translate content, but this is a two-way street. Now, what does that take? We need content that can stand out because they're not published in any other media outlet. Maybe an interview. Interviews, for one. People can give interviews to different media outlets, but they will always be different. People never say the same thing twice. So that's one of the types of contents we can use because we want to draw people's attention to this content. And this is in line with what Marina mentioned. It's a cycle, We have to draw people's attention to this content. Now, how do we do that? We have to be aware of the game's preposition content, have access to a possible short video or trailer if you have any, so that we can write about it and so that we can publish that in international media outlets and draw people's attention to it. Because, yeah, that's important. I agree with you, and we can do it. Great. Bruno, can you tell us a bit about how that works for UOL Start? How does that go about in your newsroom? At Start, some changes have been implemented because we work with games and sports at once. So we sort of have to share our space with the sports folks. They have to cover championships, their deadlines are different, but it depends. I have personally always tried to focus on national productions and local development. I wanted to focus on national games, but my main focus is human stories because people want to relate with those who are developing the games. Of course, some games are important just for the sake of it. They're important because of new mechanics. Think of Dandara for one. The mechanics was totally different to what was done before, but there are many games where the storyline is nice.
Opa, gente,
There
boa
is a
noite. Mais uma vez
background
aqui, Luana.
story that
Fazendo
is also
um
very
de
cool.
casa, né? A gente está fazendo esse evento dessa maneira, justamente para manter todo
Are we
mundo em
live?
segurança por conta do
Are we
Covid.
live?
Então,
Should we
você que
keep
está
going?
aproveitando esse evento
Not sure.
no conforto do celular. Opa, tá aqui, eu já sabia, tava testando vocês. Você que está acompanhando esse evento no conforto do celular, aproveita, usa a hashtag
I'm not sure. Can you let us know?
2021
Can
para
we keep
publicar nas
going
suas redes
or
sociais e participar junto com
do we
a
take a
gente.
break?
E olha, também mande as suas
Are we
perguntas
live?
aqui diretamente pelo chat,
Barbara, can you let us
porque
know?
as nossas palestras têm momentos de Q&A, ou seja, você manda suas perguntas, eu envio
I
para os
guess we're
participantes e
not
eles
live.
respondem
Barbara is
aqui,
saying
tá?
something, I
Bom,
guess.
além disso, se você entrar no bigfestival.com.br,
Bruno,
você pode jogar
your comments were
jogos
amazing.
gratuitamente de
That's such a
celular.
shame.
E ó, aproveita, porque esses jogos, muitas vezes, eles estão custando valores, certo? No Steam,
Yeah, excuse me,
em
folks. I'm
outras
sorry about it.
plataformas, em outras,
I know. I
outras
knew I was
redes de
gonna say I'm
streaming,
sorry at some
Xbox,
point.
Switch, enfim, não só no PC, beleza?
Okay, so
Essa é
we're
uma
on hold.
oportunidade de experimentar jogos que você pode ver se você curte ou não, para você adquirir eles em sua plataforma
Such bad
de
luck,
preferência,
right?
beleza? Eu
We're going,
tô
well,
dando aquela
all
falada,
day long.
chapada nos jogos brasileiros, porque eu joguei 5 games principalmente, falei sobre eles ontem, mas hoje eu repito. Então, você de casa, experimente. Eles estão aqui disponíveis no Big Festival. Fobia, para quem gosta de jogo de terror, eu morro de medo. Foi difícil e o jogo é muito bem construído, então foi tenso pra mim. Eu fiz em stream, inclusive. Mas enfim, muito bacana. Se você curte o gênero, vai atrás.
So if
Cartomante
you
também
like
tem um visual
those, look for
visual. Então
those.
você tem resultados
Cartomante
diferentes
is a
a
great visual
cada
novel
ação diferente
where
que
you
você
get
faz.
new
Muito
results
bacana, é curtinho, mas vale a pena você
as
experimentar.
you
E vamos lá,
implement
né?
different
Porque a coisa
actions.
tá
That's
pegando,
great.
até
Then
porque
we got
todo mundo já
Aurora,
sabe que eu
which is the
gosto de
story
jogos
of
de
a
terror
child that
que
sees the
começam
destruction around
justamente
his
com essa
village.
natureza, né? Então tem essa discussão sobre a
So there
questão
is
do
this
meio
ongoing
ambiente,
debate on the environment and
Case
the
in the Wild
preservation of the
Masks,
environment.
que é
Case and the
uma
Wild
plataforma
Masks,
incrível, uma
which is
pixel
an
art muito
amazing
fofa, muito
pixel art
surreal aos
game
games dos anos
and
90,
pays
mostrando
a
histórias,
tribute
fazendo
to
animações
the
e como,
90s
nossa,
games.
você
If you
entra
like Sonic,
totalmente dentro
the
daquilo. É
Hedgehog, Donkey
incrível, é um
Kongi,
jogo muito
then
divertido
NDAs,
que
which is
você
quite a fun
é um
game.
formato roguelike, procedural,
It's a
então
roguelike
vale a pena você
format
experimentar. Eu joguei
game,
muito,
so it's totally
e
worth
foi
your
uma
time. I've
saudade
played
de
that.
dividir com ele,
I
porque
had a
ele
lot
é
of
uma plataforma
fun,
de transmissão
and I talked
muito
about that
interessante de
in some
gravação de
videos
eventos, né?
because
Você
according to the
cria
platform you're
situações no
using,
jogo
if
e
you're
o
a streamer, if you're a
personagem
content
interage
creator,
diretamente com você. Você
the
pode
chat box
ajudar
may
ou
interact
atrapalhar as suas ações, tá? São jogos
directly
muito
with you,
bacanas,
may
mas não lembre
that may
sempre
get
de
in the way
você.
of your
Você
actions. These are great
participa
games, and you can
com a
also
participação
try
de
any
sempre que
other
foi
out.
organizado no Big Festival, beleza? Além disso, você também pode conversar
More
com
than
outros
100 games are
desenvolvedores
available to
de
you. You
jogos
can
para
also
justamente, quem sabe,
talk to game devs
participar do
live
fandom. Um
and
fandom de
maybe
trabalho, não é? Hoje, por
find a
exemplo,
job.
infelizmente, mas o Big Festival é exatamente o evento para
big festival
essa
is the
questão de
right
publicar, porque
event
você
for you
perguntou,
to
né, como entrar nesse
network,
meio,
join the
então
discussion,
o Big foi muito
and
interessante,
start
porque ele
interacting
isso,
with some professionals.
graduação,
As I said before, Big Festival was the very first event I recorded a professional video, so this is a special event for you. So let's go back to our panel on
tanta gente incrível,
gaming
você não falou
journalism.
ok, é isso,
Things seem to be
daí
going well.
zoeu,
How are you folks? Were you guys connected the whole time? Yeah, these are so, we have so many professionals.
da próxima vez a gente
We
vai
got
fazer
so
isso,
much
ok,
content, and I think
vai
that's why we need a better
incrível,
bandwidth.
tá, né? Falou
Right,
muito
too much
bem,
content.
obrigada.
The internet just couldn't take it. I think they broke the internet. Anyway, we were talking about the UOL newsroom. So maybe Eduardo can say a few words since he hasn't said anything so far. Now, this is the $1 million question. It's sort of a chicken egg situation. Does the Brazilian press talk about few international news because people don't pay attention to that, or do people not pay attention to that because they have no access to information? How do you see that? The type of content our players and gamers have access to. Before addressing that question, I wanted to tell you that I'm not part of any specialized media outlet. And that may come as a disadvantage or as an advantage. So you're talking about the audience, what the audience craves for. When I joined Folha, the São Paulo newspaper outlet, there was an article that was being written about Aride, which is a game that was developed, and the scenario was all about Bahia in the 19th century, so northeastern Brazil. And I thought that article would be a minor article. I wasn't sure they were going to like it. They did. There was a very Brazilian local approach. I made it to the cover of the newspaper. The literary festival was also going on. And I think that all converged to that. I mean, how can we make it? How can we have evidence in the media? If your game is not part of something bigger, I think it's less likely for you to get an article about it, especially in a news media outlets such as Folha. All right, Isadora, can you talk about your media outlet? How does that work for you? The chicken egg situation. Let's talk about the internet for one. People consuming articles according to the type of game.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, there's a preference for, games that are very popular on a limelight. Not just ours, but it's the audience. We have to react to that. Folks usually pay more attention to AAA games. But as time goes by in the last few years in Brazil, it's becoming ever more popular for us to pay attention to Brazilian games as well. I think this is, it's part of what we should already be doing. It's like mandatory, for us to, just to focus more on Brazilian games, and we have to think about the reaction of the audience if they're going to read about it or not. Those who work with the internet outlets, you have to react to that, and folks are getting used to it. I see it as something that people, it's an acquired taste. I love to work with Brazilian game topics. Case in the Wild Masks, Barbara mentioned. I love it. It's been launched not too long ago. I really love Brazilian games in general. I feel it's the lack of this kudos. There's so many good games. The press doesn't pay that much attention because the audience is not that used to reading about these things. Many times the audience is not seeking to know about Brazilian games and the industry we have here, the studios. And, it's, I want to do it, but nobody's going to see it. and the audience wants to read about it, but the press doesn't do it. So we're evolving little by little. That's how I see it. We take baby steps, whether you like it or not. No matter how much you want to run stories, 500 interviews about phobia, wild masks, but there's some resistance from the audience, and I think it's very much a Brazilian thing, not liking stuff that comes from Brazil. It's common. Brazilians not liking what comes from Brazil. It's sad, actually. Yeah, they pay more attention to foreign stuff, but I think folks are starting to enjoy a bit more, especially 2021. Yeah, it's getting better. Yeah, there are the two sides of the story. It's also the responsibility of developers to launch cooler games that are worthy of attention. It's not just pointing the finger and saying, "Oh, you're not helping me," but we see all of these games that are the Brazilian award for games, incredible games. There has to be this effort on both sides, the developers to have more relevant games, and for the press, to kind of put some spotlight on it. Honorable mention here, they couldn't come here, but folks from Loading, Game Shark, Bruna, Lucas, they do wonderful work covering Brazilian games. There was a whole program on Cobra Kai, Dandy Ace also, that's been mentioned here before. Barbara mentioned. It's great. It gives great drive. This space that they're opening for us. It's an example to be followed for developers. It's rewarding. It brings results and visibility. Cool. If I can chime in, my 5 cents, real quick. This is the AAA press here, right? This is the top press who's got greater audience, but we are forgetting that there are websites doing great work basically with indie, and they have great niche, an audience that is craving Nautilus, Jogabilidade, Overload, the stories on Nautilus about indie games. We're talking about that competition, come on, but they do great work, and we cannot silence about this. There's an audience that goes straight to them because they know that these outlets are more specialized in indie games. They talk about AAA games, but Rick Sampaio, he can talk a whole day about indie games, the guy from Overload. Excellent. No, you don't have to rush. Yeah, we still got time. Thank you so much, Marina. May I? Paulo, just a quickie. Isadora brought it up. Why? The audience is not the one we would like, but there's a historical thing there as well. The entire gaming press in Brazil was established to outward. So when you get the magazines and everything, what people were doing abroad, because we didn't have. Okay, there was, but it was much more difficult, to have access than it is today. So everybody who grew up in this, following this up, it kind of imported this enjoyment for AAA games. So this is kind of deep rooted. So for the next 10, 15 years, maybe we will flip the switch and we might have a greater audience, fewer AAA games, something that happens with Free Fire in Brazil. It's another phenomenon, but I just wanted to point that out. Fantastic. Yeah, in the 90s, the magazines didn't even have the Brazilian industry. Yes, excellent point, not to forget the history. Okay, I'm going to bring a controversial topic. Here we go. A controversial news. Is that what really kicks it in? Because talking to lots of developers, we have this perception. Of course, it's not unanimous, but many people think that sometimes it feels that the press goes above and beyond to cover debates, a scandal, controversies, because that probably, correct me if I'm wrong, that might bring a cool audience. So controversies are favored. If there's a controversial topic, I see Marina shaking her head. Go ahead, Marina. No way, Jose. No. We cover movies and TV shows and gossip and so got married or divorced. We don't do that. Our editorial line we don't cover that. So cyberpunk, for example, we had to cover a bit more, but not because of the controversy, was because of the hype and what was delivered. But it's not like, oh my God, it's a big disaster of the decade. No, there was a true interest from players. What the hell happened between what was promised and what was delivered? The controversy, sometimes we think, come on, is it really worth covering this? No, it's not just clicks that feed us. Come on. Of course, we want a website with lots of access, but we also want credibility. Controversy will not necessarily bring credibility. So it is a thin line, for you to walk on if you go into controversy landscape. Go ahead, Gia. May I? Go for it. I agree fully, totally, and unequivocally with Marina. How much will this enrich information over to the audience? Of course. I'm not going to be hypocritical here, and it's not. Oh, there's controversy. We're going to have audience. Maybe you don't even have any audience at all. I fully agree with what you mentioned about cyberpunk. How much was that informational for the audience to understand if the game is good or not? Sometimes it's important to cover something that may be considered controversial to inform. However, at the end of the day, more than journalists, we all play video game. We know Brazilian reality to acquire a game. That would even be to support the indie landscape. It's the price. They're highly affordable, wonderful games, and people are not enjoying that. So it's important to mention the controversy when it adds value or adds information in any and every aspect. If the game is good, if it's not, if it's going to bear weight in the purchasing decision. No, but we don't chase after controversy. We're not a gossip website. We are a gaming website. We want people to have information about what are the best and not the best games to choose and play. Fantastic. That's cool. Adding to that, I'd like to ask Bruno. Recently, I went through a situation that there was a controversy. We don't have to go down that lane, but the controversy was aired, but not the games, the good side. In your case, Bruno, I'd like to ask what leads to this kind of stuff happening, because it's what we want to avoid. We want for good things to be talked about, but sometimes we have to talk. But talking only about the controversy and not the good side, it stood out. I wanted to know why that happened. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. There are controversies and controversies. All of the big events had controversies, BGS, and we, as journalists, there's this understanding that we have to inform. If there's a controversy, we have to inform the audience of what's happening. And we have to inform and in the best possible way. What we have to be sensible about, sometimes it's just a scene thing, it's just a grudge or something, it's not worth talking about that, because it's a small thing about this one person who's got a feud with another person. So of what happened there, in that case, some flaws that happened, but those were in-house things that were happening both at UOL, at the start division. Some changes were taking place, and I wanted to come to you and to be able to go like a mea culpa, and here I do it in public, because I wanted to run the article to talk. If I badmouthed about the controversy, we have to talk about when things are going well. But it does happen. Those flaws do happen. But in terms of the controversies, that's what it is. We, as journalists, we have to inform the audience, and it's news. It's news. It's not like it's going to be controversial because it's going to bring more clicks. No, it's information. It's the commitment we have as journalists to inform the audience. Go ahead, go ahead. I personally, in my social circle of outlets that I consume content, I don't notice a lot of the controversy that is ill-used only for visualization in games outlets. Even in topics that have to do with gaming outside of our niche, a sad example, actually. It's a girl who, about a month ago, was murdered by a colleague. They played COD. There's some video game connection, and Call of Duty. And one outlet put the video of the guy killing the girl, and we saw that Paulo Gustavo did not make through COVID and all of the problems. And there were outlets that they wanted to, show their family crying. And come on, that doesn't add to anything. It's what adds value and what doesn't. So the controversy itself should not be the focus of the story. We have to bring what matters to the audience, what's going to add, what can really bring information. And that's what it is, not hunting over it, like a scavenger. And that's basically it. I don't see that very much in gaming outlets. I see this in other types of outlets, but here, I think this is well covered here for us. It's so sad. Yes, those situations you mentioned, but you're right. Bringing it back to our topic, I wanted to talk a bit about streaming. I think almost everyone here basically streams. Some stream on their own or for their news outlet, and so we see that streaming. There are some streamers who open, time to play a new game, either a Brazilian game or foreign game. And what do you think that we could do for the independent Brazilian games to come into the routine of the streaming agenda of each one? Isadora, you raised your hand, and then Waka. I work as a Furia streamer. In the beginning, you learn a lot with other streamers because it's a big team of people who work with that. Personally, I love playing Brazilian games. I love playing new games, but at the same time, I have the awareness that when I play a new game, a game that few people know about it, I'm gonna play it, that there are going to be few people on my live stream, and so the streamer prioritizes what they want to do. You have to balance a bit. If it's worth it for you to run a whole live stream publishing an interesting game that's a cool game in the industry and it's here, not having great viewership but help the work of other people and bringing that content to your channel, it's also productive for you as well. Or if it's worth, just continue with the games that bring viewership. I don't judge any of the two options. I know that streaming viewership is so important, and people are reluctant many times in that sense. What could happen is Twitch, a platform that many people stream Nemo. Platforms have a role to play, maybe to advertise games to their audience, for the audience to learn about. So bringing the games to the homepage, and it's kind of like more of an obligation from the platform, not so much the streamer or the audience. They can choose to do it or not, but you have to prioritize viewership. It's a difficult choice to make, and the platform is like the balance. Twitch many times brings clip from games, in their social networks, but rarely you see an indie game, a brand new game. When I see brand new, like really brand new, few people know about it, that's having like 15 viewers over the whole Twitch, and not a new game that's super hyped and let's stream about this one and let's show it. So we could have more, the platforms advertising. Waka, you wanna chime in?
Waka, you're on mute. Thank you, Paulo. I think the relation between streamers and games has to be a two-way street. You know, Minecraft to YouTube, Among Us last year that really boomed, you know, one thing led to the other. And I believe that in Brazil, we've got the case of Bossa with a certain simulator. They just tossed that on YouTube. YouTube did their thing with their simulator, and then they realized, you know, suddenly everything clicked. What if we use, you know, PewDiePie and create a doll from BuildPie and insert that into the game? It all became a meme. People started tossing characters' heads or organs, and there was actually a level that people could achieve if they could score more points in that. Then the Ace are some folks that already have great mechanics to their games, and you can use that mechanics to Twitch. If you don't know the game, you know, the chat box can be the villain of the game, or they can help the streamer by making comments into the chat box. So the live stream is connected to the chat box. I believe that as developers, it's important to think about the tools and features you can provide streamers with so that this specific live stream is different from all the others. So that's an opportunity for you to use the platform in your favor. It's important to have a good relationship with small streamers, you know, maybe giving them a giveaway, a special password, or a special content that will be accessed by viewers. So there are many tools that can be used by devs that can be truly helpful. You know, think about what is cool, analyze who's playing, and get people's feedback. You know, I saw that you said something during the live stream. We're going to deploy that feature. You wanna tell that story? You wanna be our spokesperson? You know, then of course you negotiate the terms of that, but there is a very useful interaction that you can make the most out of. I know. That's how you can make the streamers work even better, right? Awesome. I think that's great. That's a great tip. Because we know how important streamers are, right? In terms of spreading the word about the games. Well, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to ask you two questions at once. The first question we got is, how does the Brazilian gaming press coverage see the Indie Tuesday initiative that was created because of the lack of space they had in great media outlets? Now, I would like to add that studios, of course, they have a social media presence. Can the press amplify that presence maybe? Could we share content, interact with that content to make it more visible somehow? I think that is incredibly important. In our newsroom, we implemented the Indie Tuesday. We always look for indie content so that we can post on our social media and on our website with the hashtag Indie Tuesday. We know what it takes. We know what we can do to help independent developers. But us, as Brazilian media outlets, also have to support these studios. The solution is simple. Just email us with your idea. Just give us information. Because you know what happens in newsrooms. Things go crazy. You know how hectic our life is. We get so much content. We get different agendas every single day, but we want to foster this type of content, especially for Brazilian studios. You know, I'm a huge fan of games. I'm in love with indie games. I've been here in big festival every single year because I want to try those games out, but we need your help. And the solution is quite straightforward. Just email us with your ideas. You know, how amazing would it be to post the GIF that you created during this festival so that we could talk about this content? So yes, we're here to help you, but you have to help us too. we need to have access to information. Of course, we do our job as journalists, but if you help us, then we can help you back and we can help the audience. Brazilians have to understand that indie games are amazing and they come at a way cheaper cost. Wonderful. Does anyone want to add something to that? Go ahead, Bruno. With regards to information, sometimes we're trying to do our research on some specific Brazilian game and we just don't find any piece of information. We don't see a website, we don't see any addresses. Sometimes there is a website, but there is no point of contact with the developers. Sometimes there is nothing we can use. I mean, think of a press kit, a package of materials with a trailer video, maybe a game demo. That would be great because then we could try things out. That would be, the best of both worlds. That is not extremely necessary, but we need a kit of images, videos, and information that we can use in these articles. We need stuff we can use so that we can better talk about your game. This has happened a lot. Sometimes we're looking for a game, there's no website, sometimes there's no email address, sometimes there's no image we can use, there's no video, so that makes our work harder. Yeah, people have to help us help them, right? Yeah, let me add something to what Bruno said. I know Marina, Jean, and Bruno Isidro are editors. I think Eduardo and Isadora have the same challenges I face because in my case, I have to take this article to someone else who will approve this material. So if you give me enough information so that I can sort of sell your idea in-house, that will help me a lot. I can take this amazing idea to my editor and he'll ask me, do you have images about that? Any pictures? What about the interview? Can you interview this person? I'm not sure. When will the game be launched? I don't know. And then he'll ask me, what have you got? How can we turn that into an article? So if you have a website, if you have a press release, that can help us a great deal. Then things will work way faster and the process will be streamlined. Yeah, people have to do their homework, right? Is a final comment because we're out of time. I think companies also have to look for a PR executive, someone with a professional background to create this press release. Many indie companies do not consider that, I think. That's just a final advice, okay? You need to have a PR professional. Go for that. Great. Awesome. Great stuff. So thank you all very much. Unfortunately, our time's up. Thank you to each and every one of you for your time. I hope this was an informative session both for journalists and developers who are watching us. I think we could strike a great balance between both fields of study. And I say that the Brazilian press is making great progress. And I think, today we got much more space as compared to 10 years ago, but we got a long way to go, as you know. So again, thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you, Big Festival, for this space so that we could debate. It was amazing to talk about all those questions and matters openly. Back to Barbara then. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you for attending this session. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Obrigada demais, Paulo. E olha, queria
Thank you,
destacar
Paulo.
aqui a questão do comentário, né, da questão de polêmica
I
que
just
você
wanted to
traz.
add
Todos
something
os
to what you
jogadores estão
said.
fazendo um trabalho incrível. Eu admiro cada um de
Everyone
vocês muito.
who took
E
part
por
in
isso eu
this
acho
panel
importante
does
também,
an
depois que eu
amazing
respondo isso, vocês me
work.
seguem nas redes sociais com as
If you
palavras
follow
que
me
eu
on
uso lá.
social media,
Porque
you know
são
that I
palavras que
love
evoluem,
Isidro's
são palavras
articles.
super
So
discutidas,
yeah,
são
these are
palavras super
controversial
boas
topics that
também
we
de
have to
entender.
talk
Eu
about.
acho que é justamente o papel de
Just like we have
vocês
to talk about great
mostrar
stuff.
isso de
That's
todas as
our role as
nuances do
journalists.
jogo.
We have to
E a
convey
ciência
this information to
científica
the
e vai ser
audience.
mais da galera mesmo do que ler ou não. Gente, queria agradecer demais
And then
pelo tempo de
we allow the
vocês, pelas
audience
sugestões
decide on what
incríveis
they're going to
que
read and
vocês
what they're not
trazem
going to read.
sempre
Thank you
para
all very much. You guys are
conversar.
amazing.
Big Festival 2021, the biggest games festival in Latin America.